I've done some really stupid things in my life, but this time I got caught fooling around with the neighbor's wife. All right, I gave you all a little sneak peek there, but we're about to do a little introduction here to the neighbor's wife. So I know you guys didn't believe me when I said I was fooling around with the neighbor's wife, but really I am fooling around with the neighbor's wife, just not what you were thinking. So this is the neighbor's wife, 1983 GMC 1500, and belongs to my buddy from Tejas Truck Syndicate. If you don't already know who they are, check them out. They have a Facebook page, Instagram page. I think that's it, but I don't know. If you go on one of those two pages, you'll find out what else they got. But like I said, it's my buddy's. He really nice, clean truck, and he brought it over to me because they just put a brand new 383 stroker motor in here, and it has a problem. That problem is once the engine gets a little bit of temperature in it and you rev it up, it stays revved up. Like, you got to go and choke the carburetor to get it to idle back down. Well, I messed around with it a little bit the day that he came and dropped it off, and I thought that it was a carb issue. So I took the carb that was on Pennywise that I know was a known good, I drove it all the time, carburetor, and I put it on here and it did the exact same thing. So we're thinking that he bought like wasn't really from Temu, but I'm gonna call it a Temu intake. It was some Chinese off-brand cost-effective intake, and he wanted me to tell you guys that because he wants to help somebody in the future. Like, don't spend the extra money, get good name brand stuff, and it'll save you. It'll cost you more up front, but it'll save you a lot more in the long run. Because now he bought this intake, we don't think that it's sitting on there right and sealing right, and we think it's a vacuum leak once everything expands, and it just isn't fitting good. So now he had to go back and he bought an Edelbrock intake, which are known to be good, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to pull this all apart and put a new intake on it, put a new, you know, we'll have to pull the distributor, we'll have to take everything off to get the intake off. We'll search through it. I'll see if I can find the problem. I'll see if I can find the intake leaking and whatnot, and we'll go from there. But it'll be a good little learning episode and find out. I'm gonna start this thing back up for a minute, let it get some heat in it, and then I'll show you guys how it revs and just revs to the hilt and doesn't come back down. And yeah, then we'll get into it. But before we get into that, if you're not already subscribed, please do. And it helps me more than you'll ever understand if you hit the like button and leave a comment. So if you could go ahead and do that right now, I'd really appreciate it. And if you share this video with all your friends, they might like it, and they might subscribe and comment and like and everything else too. So if you could do all that, I really appreciate it. You guys are great, and let's get to it. All right, I've let it sit here and idle. It idles fantastic when it's just sitting here idling like this, and I know it's probably a little loud right now, and it's about to get louder. But I just wanted to show you guys what it's doing so you understand where we're at and why we're doing what we're doing. So I'm gonna go make sure that it's in park. I know it is, but I'm just gonna double check. And then I'll come back, and like I said, I know it's gonna be loud, but I'll show you what it's doing. All right, so once I rev this, it's just gonna rev up and stay revved up. So that's what it's doing, which tells me that it has a low vacuum leak, which is, you know, down by the intake or whatever. And the reason it's fireballing like that is because when you get a vacuum leak, especially a bad vacuum leak, it leans the motor out. So when you lean the motor out, don't have enough fuel. It's just like if you're trying to start something and you're pouring gas in the carburetor and you go to start it and you're revving it or whatever, and it's boom, boom, shooting fireballs. It's because it's real lean and don't have enough fuel, so it's like it makes it backfire. So the timing may not be 100% perfect, but I know it's close. I know it's not 180 out. I know all that stuff. We've already checked it all. So all signs point to this intake not fitting right and it having a bad vacuum leak. So I'm gonna get a drain pan. Now that I got this motor all nice and hot, I'll start draining coolant and stuff out of it. Probably burn the crap out of myself, but that's okay. It's all for the cause, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and start draining the coolant. We'll let it sit there and drain. Once we start getting drained out, I'll start pulling the carburetor off, stuff like that. I'm not even gonna try to mark where the distributor is or none of that stuff. We'll bump this thing over top dead center and make sure it's right, and we'll re-stab it once we get back together. And it looks like I can probably get the intake off without taking off any of the accessories or anything like that, which is good. Heck, I might not even have to pull the valve covers, but I might anyways, because I might rerun the valves just for peace of mind, because they shouldn't be causing this problem, and they were set by the machine shop that built the motor, so they should be okay. But we'll see how it runs after we get the new intake on and get it all straightened out. And if it still seems a little off, then we'll pull the valve covers and check that. But in the meantime, nothing to it but to do it. All right, this isn't sponsored or anything because he don't give me no money, but shout out Squarebody Nation. Pretty awesome fender covers. They got magnets on them. Magnet them on so they don't fall off, and they work out good. I've been using it for a while. So that being said, let's actually get to doing some work here. But just gonna start pulling stuff apart. I'm gonna run in and get some tools. We'll start pulling stuff apart and that'll just be what it is. Okay, a couple little tricks here. I got the radiator drained down, and part of the reason that I ran it, other than to show you guys that it was what it was doing, was so that I could have the thermostat opened when I drain the radiator. And that can be dangerous. You got to be careful opening the petcock if there's pressure in the system, so on and so forth. But if the thermostat is open, then you shouldn't have a top hose full of coolant and you don't make a big mess. But what we're going to do is take it off slow and find out that it's still full of coolant. Slowly bring it down here so that it runs right into our drain pan. Actually, it looks like there was just a little bit sitting up at the top. It wasn't that bad. So we'll pull this off slow. Hopefully it doesn't make a big mess here. If it does, it's just coolant. Rinse it off with water. But I'll show you guys when we get into it too, probably when we're going back together. But he bought a really cool throttle cable bracket for this, and I've probably seen them before, but I've never used one, and I really like it. So maybe something that I start using. And I don't know who makes it or where he got it from, but I can find out. But it's nice. I like it. Got a lot of adjustment on it. It's out of the way. Got hookups for whatever you want to hook up to it, so on. Alright, well that went good. We didn't get coolant all over everything. Went and got a magnetic parts tray so I don't lose nothing. And another little trick on these things, I mean, I can rub my finger on that. There's nothing stuck to it. It's good. But you never know. When you're working on a nice truck like this and you're going to be sticking the magnet to it, take a towel or something. The magnet's strong enough. Put it underneath the magnet, stick it to it. And then if there is anything that could scratch paint or anything on that magnet, it won't. So little trick, might help somebody, might not. Pretty much disconnected all the vacuum lines and everything off the carburetor. The only thing I haven't disconnected, well, other than this throttle linkage, but it's no big deal, is the fuel line. And things usually hold some fuel pressure, which granted it should only be like 5 to 9 pounds, somewhere in there, but they get to spraying a lot when you're taking them off. And so you know what I'm saying. So we'll take it off here in a second. I'm gonna bring a rag out, soak my hand in gas so I can go eat lunch and smell it while I'm eating, because you know that makes your lunch taste better when it tastes like gas. Drop that nut down in the intake. We'll have to find it before we take the intake loose. I got a zip tie holding the throttle cable on, because when we messed with this the other day, we just kind of threw it together and we needed throttle to get it in the trailer, and we didn't adjust the throttle cable. Alright, I'm gonna go grab a rag so we can take that. Here's that throttle bracket I was telling you guys about. Like I said, I'll show it to you up close. We got to do adjustments on it and everything else, but it's really cool. This is all loose. This is all loose. Try not to get fuel all over everything. One thing about these carburetors, they're full of fuel. This is I'm just doing this because of the pressure, but when you take the carburetor off, you want to make sure you hold it like straight up and down. If you tilt it just the least little bit, you're going to dump gas on everything in this engine compartment. There's that. Get this up out of the way where we can pull the intake. Wires there, and get them out of the way. Alright. Our chief of police just drove by. You heard somebody honk, that was him, and I know he watches the videos, so hey Chief, how's it going? Alright. This stuff right here. Okay. That's our tack. That's our coil hot. That can stay on there. It's going to our AC. We'll have to take that off and pull it all the way through in a second. I'll get this out of the way. I'm just going to disconnect all these spark plug wires because I might reroute them for them anyways. I don't really like them. Not that there's anything wrong with them, I just don't like them running under the headers, and they're close to the headers, and I don't really care for it. So. Alright, I need some more tools. I'm going to go get those. Come back and we'll keep going. Okay, I had to go get a wrench to take this hose clamp off. The accessory bracket doesn't really allow you to get, I guess I could have got a short socket and a ratchet in there, but it's alright. I think I'm already kind of seeing what the problem is. I'm not going to give it away. I'll show you guys when we get it closer, but I think I'm kind of already seeing what our problem is. Run into this before, had issues with this before, so we'll go over that in just a minute. saying it's 100% the case, but I'm saying there's a good chance it very well could be. Like I said, this is a fresh motor. Like, it probably has less than 5 miles on it and a burnout maybe. So everything is brand new. All right, looks like if I get this heater hose off, that is the last thing before we pull the intake. So now, before we do that, I'm going to bring you guys in here closer and show you what I see that there's a good chance is going to be our problem. So I'll show you that now. Okay, so some of you may be familiar with Vortex style heads, and some of you may not. But Vortex heads, the bolts in the middle of the heads, Vortex, we're talking like throttle body, SPMI, or SMPI, multi-port injection, whatever, the 96 to 2000, 350s and 305s. Then you got the throttle bodies from like 88 to 95, 94, whatever. Anyways, they got Vortex style heads, and the center bolts on the intake go straight down instead of angled like a standard small block Chevy would. So you can buy intakes to put a carburetor on Vortex heads, and they're cut different so that you can get the straight bolts in instead of the angled bolts in. Now, there's the right ones and there's the not so good ones. Like I told you in the beginning of the video, my buddy wanted me to explain about not buying cheap stuff because it ends up costing you more in the long run, and he wanted somebody else to learn from his, we'll just say learn from his mistake. So anyways, I'm going to show you this. Now you can see down here that you see that intake bolt, and you see the washer, and then you can see a gap in that, around that washer. And the reason that is because the company that made this intake, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, not going to rat anybody out, try to make anybody lose business or nothing like that. It's not what I'm not in business to do that. Anyways, this company just cut a big oval hole. Now, that big oval hole, you don't have that washer doesn't cover that whole hole. And depending on where how the intake sits and whatnot, that can be a vacuum leak. And you go, oh, I don't think so. Yeah, absolutely. And I've run into that problem before, and the crappy, not right, don't ever do this way of fixing that is put studs in there, fill those cavities with silicone, put a washer that covers it on, and then put your nut on and tighten your intake down. That will solve that problem. Now, that being said, the intakes for the Vortec heads fit just a little bit different other than those bolts than on a standard small block Chevy head. That being said, you can seal them up, but they don't seal up right. So he didn't do anything wrong on purpose. He bought a universal, cost-effective, lower cost, I'm joking around with him, but Temu intake, and it just doesn't sit and seal right. So like I said, he got another one that's Edelbrock, known good for a small block Chevy. It should sit down on there and everything should be good. So that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and break these intake bolts loose. We'll snatch this intake out of here. I'll go get the other intake, show you what he got to replace this one, and then we'll start the process going back with it. And we'll put everything back together and button everything up and get this thing in time and all of everything. And we'll see if we fix our problem. All right, believe it or not, I went in all of my toolboxes, and I do not own a 12.38 socket. At least if I do, couldn't find it. So I had to run over to my buddy Art's house real quick, and he happened to have one, and he let me borrow it. So we are picking the high cotton now. Got hornets and mud daubers and everything else flying all over. Alright, see how easy this thing wants to come off of here. See if I can get in here somewhere and try to get on it without... Oh yeah, I can probably just lift it out. Yep, I can. Alrighty, cool. Alright, I got a bunch of cleaning up to do. Them gaskets look brand new, which, because they are, like I said, this thing only had maybe 10 miles on it, if that. But, which is nice, because that means the gaskets should come right off and I shouldn't have to do a whole lot of cleaning. I don't see anywhere on the gaskets on the sides. Actually, yes I do. You can see. I'll bring you guys in here and show you, and then we'll look at the intake. Alright, if you look down in here, there's some wetness. I don't know how, you see the wetness around there? That wasn't pulled down tight. This side's okay. That side was leaking, and that's from fuel. When the fuel gets in there, then that means air can get out. Same thing back here. It's all wet back here too. That's from fuel getting out there. There's a little bit over here. So it just wasn't sealing good. You can see back here in the back where oil was leaking out of the silicone. And if oil's leaking out of the silicone, then it's not sealed. So our silicone in the front, our silicone in the back, and a little bit on our gasket, it was leaking. Now, this isn't saying anything bad about anybody or my buddy that did this or anything else, but I use ultra gray silicone. Ultra gray turns into a bond, like it hardens and locks it down where like the black like they used, this stays, it never cures all the way. It stays really pliable. And you can see on here where it's got oil was leaking right there in that corner. It's leaking right here in this corner, and it was all leaking over here also. So, and then this is all fuel, like I said, that was leaking down mainly on this side. This side seems pretty dry, but this side, it's got a bunch of fuel on it. So that was our problem. Like I said, it just didn't sit down in there like it was supposed to, and then the universal intake just kind of So anyways, he got an Edelbrock 7501, essentially the exact same intake that was on there, just the name brand. So I'm gonna get this opened up. I will get everything off of that intake, all the plugs and the thermostat and thermostat housing and everything else swapped over. That was good. Did y'all see that? Apparently that package was already open. We got the intake. He got a kit, came with gaskets, bolts and everything. So we got new bolts that I'm going to put back on instead of those little 12-point headed bolts that were in it. So that'll be good, more better in my opinion. They got a bigger head, more surface area on the intake to pull it down. And I think it's gonna be good. So let me get that opened up, everything switched over, and then I'll bring you guys in there and I'll show you. I get a little carried away with the silicone, and I want his stuff to look clean. So yeah, we'll figure it out. It'll look fine, it'll be sealed up, and it should fix our problem. All right, we got all this cleaned up. We got it all scraped. All the old gasket, all the gasket tack and everything else they had on there, all the silicone scraped off the China walls, and got it all wiped down really good with brake parts cleaner. So all the residue and everything is off, and it's nice and clean. Now a little tech tip, I should have showed you guys, but I didn't. But what I do is take blue towels, like 3 in a row, and you can put them in there and you can tuck them up underneath the heads. Run it all the way front to back, then you can get in there with your scraper and scrape everything, and it all falls in the paper towel, and you carefully fold it up and pull it out and throw it away. And you don't have to worry about all that crap falling down in your motor and trying to dig it back out of your motor and vacuuming it and whatever else. But anyways, pardon the wind, I'm sorry, I can't help it. Got everything off this intake, switched over to this intake, got our new bolts for this intake, and got our new gasket set. This thing's got a fancy set of aluminum heads on it. I don't remember what brand he told me they were or anything like that, but it's got nice aluminum heads on it, and the company that makes the aluminum heads says that these Felpro 1205 gaskets are the ones that you have to use because they make it seal the best. So that's what we got, that's what we're putting on. I'm gonna go ahead and put my beads of silicone at the front and rear of the intake. I'll glue my gaskets on. Now when I put gaskets on, I take just a little bit of silicone and just put it right around the outside of the all 4 water ports. I'll stick my gaskets on there and let them sit, and then I'll run my silicone across my China walls, and then I let it sit for, I don't know, probably 20 minutes, just so it starts to tack. And then I'll take my intake and set it down on there, and that way you got your bead, your nice bead of silicone that you laid, and it kind of starts to get crusty on the outside edge, but it's still pliable. Then you smash that intake down on it, and it doesn't smash it out as bad, if you know what I'm saying, because you know what it looks like when you see a nice clean motor and it's got, you know, bead of silicone getting squeezed out the front. I leave it there, I don't care, because if it pushes that bead out, I know it's sealed. But not everybody likes that. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead, I'll get my silicone and my gaskets on, I'll show you guys what it looks like when I do it. Like I said, I use ultra gray. This intake kit came with black gasket, Jags brand gasket maker, whatever. I put it in a box to send back to my buddy with the truck so he can have it since he paid for it. But I went and bought a tube of ultra gray because that's what I use, and I know it works for the way I use it. So I got to do this work. The truck's got to be right when it goes back to him, so I'm going to use what I know works so that's good to go. So anyways, like I said, I'll get my gaskets on, get my silicone on, I'll bring you guys back, I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll put the intake back in. Okay, I got my gaskets on. They're all set in place. Everything looks pretty good. And got my silicone front and rear. Plenty of it, like I said. I'll let it dry overnight and come back tomorrow, and if it's got some slop hanging out the front where you can see it, like he said he doesn't like, I'll go back with a razor blade and cut it clean. But I'd much rather have it push out and know that it's sealed than try to make it look pretty. So we can make anything look pretty later. But all right, I'm gonna let that sit for a few minutes. I'm gonna go do some judo karate moves on some mud daubers and wasps that are flying around my face here while I'm trying to work on this. And after that cures up for about 10 more minutes, grab that intake, throw it back in there. All right, it's been a little bit here. We got our intake, and I'm gonna take it, and I'm going to do my best to set it straight down here where it needs to go. You don't want to slide it around if you can help it, because start sliding it around, it starts moving your gaskets, and then you got problems. So I'm gonna set it down there, and you guys are gonna go, man, you take an awful lot of time just to put an intake on, and you're right, I do. But they usually don't leak. So what I'm gonna do now that I let that silicone sit for a while, so it had time to kind of start to set up to where it wouldn't smush out, but it would kind of smush. It'll seal good, but it won't all smush out, is what I'm trying to say. Now I'm going to set the intake on here, and I'm going to get all four corners, the bolts in all four corners started, so I know that the intake and my gaskets are lined up. And then I'm not going to tighten them though, I'm just going to get them hand tight. I can go ahead and start all the bolts if I want to, it doesn't matter, we're just not going to tighten it down. And then I'm going to let it sit like that with just the weight of the intake on that silicone while I go pick my daughter up from school. And then once I get her picked up from school, then I'll come back and we'll torque all those bolts down. And then by then, you're not smushing the stuff out. It's already kind of firmed up, and you're just making it shrink down, so it's really pushing out in all the crevices to seal off that intake. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna let that sit. I'm gonna go get my daughter from school and be back in a little bit. Okay, I went ahead and took plenty of time. I let that sit there for, had some stuff come up. I bet you it sat there for an hour before I tightened it down. And now I'm attempting to pull the #1 spark plug out, but yeah, can't get a socket on it. Not having luck with a wrench. Let me see what I can find to get that spark plug out, and I'll get back with you. All right, I had a brain fart and thought about something. And if y'all remember back in the day, I built a truck called Long Step, had a big block and some headers on it, and you couldn't get sockets on those plugs either. And I built this little wrench with a cutoff socket that the spark plug can go through, and so on and so forth. so you can get on these plugs that are a problem to get on. And there it is. I'm sure somebody makes one of those, but if they don't, I should patent it because it works great. There's our spark plug. Seems a little on the rich side, but we'll see. Pops is in the truck. He's gonna bump it over for me when I tell him to, so we can find top dead center. And then we'll be able to drop that distributor. Dad, go ahead. Again. 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 Whoa! Stop right there. Alright, so that just popped. So that should have us close. And there's the mark on the balancer. So I'm gonna see if I can get that mark a little bit closer. It went a little bit past it. See if I can get it back a little bit, and then we will it's got too much compression. I'm not going to get it back a little. But we're still pretty close. Close enough that I can work with it. So now I'm going to grab another homemade tool. This is the shaft out of a distributor. Cut the gear off so to go past the shank for the gear is still there, but the gear itself has been cut off so to go past the cam. And then I took and etched a line in the end of that so I know which way my oil pump shaft is facing. If you know, when you go to set your distributor down in, you have to have that oil pump lined up, or it's gonna not go where in the orientation you want it to go in. So by doing this, I'll look at this distributor and I'll look at my rotor, and the rotor is lined up with that. So I need this shaft pointing exactly where I want to point my rotor. Now, since I can look at my timing mark and see that I went just a little bit past top dead center, I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it so it points straight forward. And then I'll still put my number 1 wire back here because that'll make up for when it went past. So, there we go. Right about there. Grab my distributor, and it's going to turn a little bit, so I want to come a little bit off. All the way down. That's pointing forward, locked in. That's where we want it. So I can and go ahead and put my clamp on this. I'm not going to tighten it down, but I'll snug it up. And of course, it got turned Now I gotta take it all the way off and put it back on. Snug this up just a little bit. Where it's not gonna move on its own, but we can still move it. And we will toss our cap back on like so. Alright, that'll get us with that for now. Next thing, I'm going to grab the carburetor and the stuff to install the carburetor. We'll get on that. Alright, I got to hit my head one more time. I got brand new gaskets. Got our little metal plate. I'm not sure what that does, but it was on there. We're putting it back. We got this Edelbrock 600 CFM AVS2. And I've made this mistake time and time and time before. Not gonna do it again. You cannot get this bracket on and this nut back here started without picking the carburetor up. So if you don't do it before you get started, you get the other ones all put on and then you can't get the bracket. Then you take it all back apart. So I don't feel like doing work twice today, so we're going to do it right the first time. Uh-oh. Got the washer, but we found it. All the coolant lines and stuff back up, hook the fuel lines up, hook the spark plug wires up. But before I fill it with coolant and hook up the throttle linkages and all that stuff, we're going to fire it up and make sure that we fix the problem. Because if we didn't and there's something else wrong and we got to take it back apart, then there's no reason to have it all put back together first. So get the carburetor on, get the fuel line hooked up, get the vacuum lines hooked up. We'll hook up our two coolant lines just in case. The radiator's empty, but there's probably still coolant in the block. I don't want to pump it out anywhere. So we'll hook those up, put it together, and then we're gonna see if we fixed it. And if we didn't, we're gonna push it out in the middle of the parking lot and run it over with another vehicle. No, we're not gonna do that, I'm just kidding. I think Ray's had this truck since like the dawn of time. He'd be extremely upset. Got everything pretty much hooked back up, got my spark plug wires run, so on and so forth, fuel hooked back up. Everything's pretty much hooked back up except I don't have coolant in it. So we're going to hit the key, get some fuel back in the carburetor, see what happens. Go ahead. Crank it. Never mind. All right, go again. Go ahead. What in the heck? Oh, it's just loose. Hold on a second. Alternator wire's loose. Started shooting sparks. I didn't know what was going on. All right, go ahead. Alright, well, it's still doing it. It's still progressively revving once you do it. So that's with the distributor reset. That's with the new intake, well sealed. It's done it with 2 different carburetors. So it's got to be like I'm going to do some research. I think maybe it's got something to do with valve lash. I'm willing to see if I can do anything with that. And actually, maybe I'm a dummy because I just ran this thing with no nothing plugging a vacuum line on the back of the carburetor. I'm surprised it even started. Let's try it again. Yep. Nope, that wasn't it. Still doing it. So now there is a vacuum canister, and I don't know if that could be causing it, but I don't think so. But just in case, I'm going to take this back off. I'm going to plug the port in the back of the carburetor. We'll try one more time. Alright, let's try it one more time. Go ahead. Nope, that didn't do it either. Not the vacuum can, not the intake, not the carburetor. All the vacuums hooked up. Let me do some research and see if I can figure some stuff out, and we'll get back after it. So I unhooked everything that was vacuum and tried it, and still doing the same thing. I unhooked the PCV valve, I unhooked the vacuum advance on the distributor, I unhooked the brake booster, I unhooked the vacuum canister, I unhooked everything that was brakes or vacuum, and it still did it. So I was doing some research, I phoned a friend, I talked to some people, and we all kind of came to the conclusion that maybe when you rev it up and it advances, the distributor weights advance when it opens, the weights are sticking open. Which I don't know that that's the case, because I can, do that and it brings the idle right back down, which is, that's trying to kill the motor. So I guess it's a possibility it would like die down and it would let the weights relax, I guess, but I don't know. So anyways, with that being said, we are going to put a different distributor in it, and we're gonna see what happens. Now, that being said, I should be able to take this cap off, unhook it, take the cap off, and set it off to the side, put the new distributor in, set it in the exact same spot this one's in, put this cap back on, plug it back in, and we should be good. In theory, that's gonna work and it sounds great. In actuality, we're gonna end up having to pull all the spark plug wires off, take the cap off, redo everything. But we're gonna try to avoid that happening. Looks like I can take just this spark plug wire off, which one wire shouldn't be too confusing. And then I can set that all the way over to the side over there, and it's well out of our way. Somehow or another, my distributor's pointed almost dead on where we put it yesterday. So I know it's pointing straight forward. That'll be easy to remember, dropping the other one back in. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna get this one yanked out real fast, and we'll get that one dropped back in the same spot. We'll put the cap back on, and hook the wires back up and hook the vacuum back up and bring the timing light out, and we'll time this thing, and we'll cross our fingers and say a little prayer, and it'll be fixed. So let me get this out and all that, and we'll start going back in a minute. Okay, just real quick, this distributor has a brass gear on it, which the one that we went and got, the new one that we just went and got, has a steel gear on it. So I'm assuming there's a reason this has a brass gear. Usually you change them out depending on your cam, whatnot. So because this one had the brass gear, I'm gonna go ahead and swap them so that the brass gear goes on the new one before I put it back in. So I just wanted to show you guys that, so you knew what I was doing. If you never swapped one of these gears before, you drive that dowel pin out right there, it slips off, slip it on the other one, drive the pin back in, you're done. All right, got the gear switched out, brand new gasket, new distributor. Looks exactly like the old distributor because it's the same thing. So I'm just gonna get it down in here, set it right back in the exact same place the other one was in, like so. And then we can put our cap back on. All right, I gotta get that tab line back up for the coil so the plug will plug in, and just get that spark plug wire back on. I gotta hook some vacuum hoses and stuff back up. Next time I turn you back on, we'll be ready to fire this thing up, and we'll have our timing light out here. So we did talk to the engine builder. He told us exactly where he wanted the timing, where it should be. So I'm gonna set it right to that, and hopefully it's right on. So we'll see here in a minute. All right, as you can probably tell, it's sitting here running, it's idling. I got the distributor and everything all back together and hooked everything up. I got the TV cable for the transmission hooked up. I got the throttle cable bracket all done, which when I'm all done with this, I'll show you guys everything up close. But it's idling fine. I can rev it, it's revving fine. As long as I keep the timing right around 0. Now it's got an aftermarket like bolt-on timing tab, so that may be part of the problem. It may be off and we may be trying to put like 30 degrees of initial timing in it, and it's just like, no, sorry, I don't think so. But I've been through everything. I can't find anything else that could be causing the problem. I've sprayed it all down with brake parts cleaner. Everywhere that it could have a vacuum leak. Everything. And I've got everything hooked, all the vacuum and everything hooked back up. It'll rev, it comes back down to an idle. And so I'm gonna take it for a ride real quick, and thermostat just opened, sorry. I'm gonna take it for a ride real quick, see what happens, and I'll let you guys know when we get done. right, guys, pardon the wind. I'm gonna do the best I can. We had some storms come through here, and it's cold and it's windy, and I'm gonna flip the camera around in a second and show you a valid reason why I'm not working today. But we got like 5.5, 6 inches of rain in 2 days, and water is already kind of an issue here and whatnot. But before we get into that, neighbor's wife, we kept plucking and plucking and plucking away at it, and no matter what I did, no matter what I thought I fixed, no matter what happened, it was still climbing, still revving on its own and whatnot. So we're gonna end the video on that here, and the owner of the truck is coming up next weekend, and we're gonna pull that motor out of that truck, and we're gonna take it apart, and we're gonna go through it piece by piece and find out what's wrong, because there's got to be something inside the motor that's allowing it to suck air when you rev it, and which is in turn pulling in more fuel through the carburetor and making it rev. So we're gonna, I mean, we got degree wheels for cams, we got everything you can think of. We're gonna go in there and see what we can do. So anyways, that being said, this is going to be part 1 of fooling around with the neighbor's wife, and I will film part 2 next weekend when he's here and we get that motor out and start going through it. And yeah, so that's that. Now, I'm not working today because I can't get to my shop. And you guys may say, what, you can't get to your shop? And yes, that's correct. I cannot get to my shop. I tried in old Burb Nasty right here. I tried to get to my shop, and the water in my parking lot started coming in my doors. As you can see, my building materials for my house are floating away. My house is not underwater yet. We still got 8 inches or so, 8 to 10 inches maybe before water gets in the house. And I'm really hoping it doesn't get to that point, because if it does, that house is a total loss. I cannot get over to my shop. I started driving through here. Water started coming in the bottom of my doors, or got to the bottom of my doors, and I didn't want to risk it. So I put it in reverse and we backed back out. The ditches aren't draining. The other entrance down there is the same. These trucks are sitting in water. There's water all back there. The only spot on this property that is dry is my shop, and probably about 40-foot diameter around it. So I can't get to the shop, and even if I did, there's not a lot I can do. I can't move vehicles around, I can't get to vehicles, whatever. And it, like I might have already mentioned, it's cold again today. It's down in the low 50s. So I'm gonna go see if there's anything I can do to help anybody else, because there's roads washed out. People can't get away from their homes, some can't get back to their homes, and you know, some people have flooding in their houses or whatever. And so I just want to go see if, I don't know if there's even anything I can do, but I want to see if there is. I'm going to try, and that's what I'm going to do today. So no shop work today. This will be the end of this video. I'm going to edit tonight after it gets dark. It'll be up in the morning. And never had a current in my parking lot before. We got waves going on here, small ones, but we got waves. And so yeah, so all right guys, thank you so much for watching. Pray for us. Like I said, I'm okay. I'm not living here right at the moment, so I can get into my house I'm staying at and everything, but there's people that can't. So I'm gonna do what I can to help them. Pray for us, and thank you guys so much for watching. If you're not already subscribed, please do. Leave a comment, leave a like, share it with your friends, whatever you can do. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.